A billionaire boards a flight with his young daughter, expecting a quiet trip. But when a flight attendant crosses a line and slaps the child, the entire plane is stunned. Within minutes, one phone call sets off a chain of events that not only ends the careers of the entire crew but also brings the airline itself to its knees. The late afternoon sun spilled across the polished marble floors of JFK's private terminal, reflecting off glass walls and the sleek black cars pulling away outside. Cameron Hughes walked with the unhurried stride of a man accustomed to being in control. Billionaire, philanthropist, investor, and innovator, he carried none of the flash that tabloids loved to exaggerate. His power was quieter, sharper, more precise. But today, his only focus was the little girl skipping beside him, clutching a stuffed rabbit with ears as frayed as an old ribbon. 6 years old, bright-eyed, endlessly curious, Amara was the center of his world. He had chosen to fly commercial for her sake, not because he lacked options. His company maintained a fleet of jets that could have carried them anywhere. But Cameron believed in lessons. He wanted Amara to know humility, to see people, to understand that even though the world treated her differently, she was no more or less human than anyone else. A first-class seat on a major airline was luxury enough. They moved through the lounge with polite smiles and nods. Passengers noticed him, some whispering, others sneaking photos, but Cameron ignored it. Amara giggled at the sight of tiny cupcakes on the buffet, tugging at his sleeve until he let her pick one. They had time before boarding, and he watched her savor each bite as if it were the most important thing in the world. For Cameron, in a way, it was. When boarding was called, they stepped into the priority lane. The jet bridge hummed beneath their feet as they entered the aircraft, greeted by attendants with practiced smiles. Cameron's seat was 1A, Amara's was beside him in 1B. Spacious leather recliners gleamed under soft lighting. He settled her in carefully, adjusting her seatbelt and tucking the rabbit against her side. She asked for orange juice. He asked for water. It felt routine. The cabin filled slowly, passengers carrying the smell of perfume, coffee, and travel fatigue. Amara hummed softly as she stroked the rabbit's worn fur, her voice barely more than a whisper. It was innocent, harmless. But as the lead flight attendant passed by, tall, sharp-faced, with a clipped efficiency that felt closer to disdain than professionalism, her gaze landed on the girl with irritation. "Sweetheart," the attendant said curtly. "Keep still. This is first class, not a playground." Cameron looked up, his brows narrowing slightly. His voice was calm. "She's fine. She's sitting in her seat." The woman's smile was tight, her tone dismissive. "Just keep her quiet." Then she moved on. Cameron exhaled slowly, letting it pass. He'd dealt with rudeness before. But Amara, unaware of the tension, kept humming softly, the rabbit tucked under her chin. Minutes later, the attendant returned, eyes flashing with irritation. "I told you to sit still," she snapped, and before Cameron could react, her hand shot out and struck the child lightly across the cheek. The sound was soft but unmistakable. Amara gasped, her song cut short. Her wide eyes filled instantly with tears. The rabbit slipped from her grasp and tumbled to the floor. The cabin froze. Shock rippled through first class. Passengers stared, mouths open, some whispering in disbelief. A man 2 rows back pulled out his phone, angling it carefully. A woman gasped audibly, clutching her pearls as though she herself had been struck. Cameron rose to his feet with measured calm. He bent down first, picking up the rabbit and pressing it back into Amara's trembling hands. He kissed the top of her head, whispering reassurance. Then he turned his gaze on the attendant. His voice was low, even, terrifying in its composure. "You just put your hands on my daughter." The attendant stiffened but didn't back down. Her chin lifted. "She was disruptive. We can't have children disturbing passengers in first class. I did what needed to be done." The words hung in the air like poison. Cameron's eyes never wavered. He reached into his jacket, pulled out his phone, and dialed. It rang once. "Yes, Mr. Hughes?" a voice answered promptly. Cameron spoke with icy clarity. This is Flight 238 to Los Angeles. Seat 1A. A flight attendant just slapped my child. I want the entire crew identified immediately. Freeze all corporate accounts connected to this airline. Legal action begins now. Do not wait for us to land. There was no hesitation. Understood, sir. Consider it done. He ended the call, slipped the phone away, and sat back down, pulling Amara gently into his lap. She buried her face in his chest, tears wetting his shirt. He stroked her hair, whispering, "You're safe. Daddy's here." The other passengers sat in stunned silence. The attendant's face had gone pale, her confidence evaporating. She tried to speak, to offer some explanation, but Cameron raised one hand slightly, and she stopped. It was not a request. It was command. The plane taxied and lifted into the sky, but the air inside was heavy, taut with unspoken tension. Crew members whispered nervously among themselves, shooting uneasy glances toward the front. No one dared approach him again. Passengers exchanged looks, some filming discreetly, knowing history was unfolding in front of them. Cameron's phone buzzed mid-flight. He checked the screen. Updates scrolled in rapid succession, frozen accounts, halted partnerships, legal teams mobilized. His network moved like a machine. Hours later, the wheels touched down in Los Angeles. But outside, the story had already exploded. Videos of the slap had leaked from the cabin. Hashtags surged across social media. Hashtag Justice for Amara. Hashtag Airline Disgrace. Hashtag Dignity First. Outrage boiled over in every corner of the internet. News outlets broke into programming to show grainy footage of a crying child in her father's arms. By the time the seatbelt lights switched off, executives at the airline were in full-scale crisis mode. The board was on emergency calls. Investors threatened to pull funding. Stock prices plunged within minutes of the market opening. At the front of the plane, the captain approached Cameron nervously. His face was pale, sweat beading at his temples. "Mr. Hughes," he stammered, "on behalf of the airline, I..." Cameron didn't even turn his head. "Don't waste your breath." His voice was soft but final. "Your careers are over." The captain swallowed hard. He knew it was true. Cameron rose, holding Amara's hand, and led her calmly down the jet bridge. Outside, a wall of flashing cameras and shouting reporters waited. Questions flew like arrows. "Is it true, Mr. Hughes? Did an attendant hit your child? What will you do next?" Cameron ignored them all, guiding Amara into the back of a waiting SUV. He shielded her from the chaos, shutting the door firmly behind her. As the convoy pulled away, the world outside erupted. Within 12 hours, the airline announced the immediate suspension of the entire crew. But Cameron's legal team had already ensured their fates were sealed. Licenses would be stripped. Careers in aviation ended. Lawsuits would follow, dragging the company through years of costly settlements. And while the world debated corporate accountability, race, and respect, Cameron sat quietly in his Los Angeles penthouse that night, Amara asleep in his arms, Rabbit clutched tightly against her chest. He whispered to her softly, words meant only for her ears. "You are never less than anyone. No one has the right to hurt you. Remember that. Always." Outside, the city glittered. Inside, father and daughter rested in the quiet after the storm. And somewhere across the country, an airline reeled from the consequences of a single slap, a mistake that cost not just millions, but entire careers. If this story moved you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes in standing up for what's right. Stories like this remind us that dignity is priceless, and when it's violated, justice must follow.